What's up guys, this is Kyle from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Box ETC from Modvapa and the Panda V12 from Modvapa. Man, this tank is amazing. We're going to get to the tank in a second. I want to first start with the Box ETC from Modvapa. So this is a 70 watt device and it does do temperature control. It'll fire between 5 watts and 70 watts. Now in normal wattage mode, it'll fire down to a 0.2 ohm coil, whereas in temperature control, it'll fire down to a 0.05. Now the Box ETC, it feels and looks a lot like their 50 watt Box 1 mod or something like that. So it's extremely small, it's extremely portable. There are 3 things about the Box ETC that I just don't like. The first one being the edges don't feel that nice. I mean, none of them are sharp, but a lot of them just feel kind of rough. I mean, even the finishing on the metal just doesn't look that great. I'm not a big fan of the aesthetics of the Box ETC. The second thing about the Box ETC that I'm not a huge fan of is the fact that our electronics are kind of exposed. The first one is the venting hole on the bottom. You can look up into that and actually see electronic components, and being that it's on the bottom, if you were to set this down or your tank were to leak or maybe there was a spill and it got under the device, that liquid could make its way up into the board, into the chip, and ruin this device. And the only other thing I really don't like about this is the fact that it's a single 18650 battery and it seems to go pretty quickly. Now one cool thing about the Box ETC is the way the menu works. You don't turn on the device, then select what mode you want to be in, whether you're in temperature control or normal wattage mode. You actually select that before you turn on the device. So kind of like a Windows bootloader where you can select the partition of the hard drive that you want to start up, or if you want to select a CD or a DVD or whatever to start up, you could do that. Same kind of thing with this. The device is automatically off. It brings you to a little screen. Click 3 times to turn it on with whatever mode you have selected, or hold power up, power down to enter the kind of bootloader where you select the mode you want to start up the device with. Kind of cool, kind of a little time consuming. I mean, if you are using, let's say, a nickel coil in temperature control and now you want to throw on a regular Kanthal or nichrome or whatever coil for normal wattage mode, you will have to click 3 times until the device locks, then hold power up, power down, go to normal wattage mode, then hit the firing button, hit it 3 more times to start the device back up in wattage mode. Kind of seems a little bit unnecessary to me. We've added a few extra steps to something that shouldn't be that hard, but that's what Modvapa decided to do with the interface on the Box ETC. And speaking of the interface, I really like how in wattage mode, you don't adjust by 0.1 watt increments, which is just kind of ridiculous. Who finds that 40.1 is just a slight bit better than 40.0? So with the Modvapa Box ETC, you adjust by 0.5 watt increments, which just makes more sense. I mean, I still think you could make it a solid 1 watt, but half watt kind of gives you a little more wiggle room to play around with and fine tune your wattage. Similarly, in temperature control mode, you're not adjusting by 1 degree increments, but rather 10 degree increments. So it's easier to go up to or down to the temperature you're looking to hit, but it's a little bit harder to kind of fine tune your temperature control since you have to be in a multiple of 10. But otherwise, this is an extremely easy 70 watt temperature control device to operate. I like it. Overall, I wouldn't use this on a regular basis, but it's not bad. I think they could just clean up the aesthetics a little bit, some of the edges, make the interface a little bit easier to work with. But other than that, it works pretty well. Now moving on to the tank. This is the Panda V12, and check this out. The airflow is awesome and interesting. We're gonna get to it in a second. The flavor is remarkable, and there's a lot of really cool features with the Panda V12. It's kind of like they took a bunch of really popular, really hot selling tanks on the market and kind of combined them into one to make this Panda V12. Let's start with the only 2 cons I have about this tank. The first one is the spit bag. You will get a little bit of juice in your mouth, especially depending on how hard you hit the device. The harder you hit it, the more juice you'll get in your mouth. It's not a huge deal, especially if the juice tastes really good. It's not the biggest deal in the world to me. It hasn't deterred me from wanting to use this tank. I've absolutely loved using it the past couple of days, But I do have to mention it as a con, because I think if that spitback wasn't there, I'd think even higher of this tank. And the second con about the Panda V12 is, although it holds 4 milliliters of e-liquid, it drinks juice. You could kill this tank in easily a couple of hours. I mean, it goes through a lot of juice. The coil I've primarily been using with the Panda V12 is their new 0.6 ohm V12 coil. Nothing special about it, it's not a Clapton or anything like that. But at 0.6 ohms, it can handle a lot of wattage. I've been running this tank consistently at 60 watts, which is over 6 volts, which is a lot of voltage to be putting through an atomizer in a tank, but it keeps up. I haven't had a single dry hit yet. Now let's talk about that interesting airflow design that the Panda V12 has going on. There's two things involved here. The one is the bottom, the regular airflow on the tank itself is slightly constricted. And the drip tip is basically a 1-to-1 clone of Smock's TFV4 drip tip that has the dual barrel with the adjustable airflow control, except for the Panda V12 drip tip is slightly shorter than Smock's TFV4. Now, when I first started using this tank, I closed off the drip tip's airflow completely, and that's when I noticed it's just a tad bit tight for me. I'll go ahead and show you what that's like. Airflow is all the way closed at the drip tip. It's definitely a warmer vape. You're getting only airflow coming in from the bottom, so it's passing through that coil. Whereas when you open up the drip tip's airflow, which normally I'm not a big fan of, I want all my airflow going through the coil itself. But with the Panda V12, really interesting thing happens here. When that airflow is completely open, you can do one of two things. You can either hit it with your lips on the end, so you get full airflow coming in through the top, and that's like what I call the cloud chaser's airflow. It's a lot of airflow, but the flavor's not quite there because you're getting so much airflow. It's still really good, and you'll still get a little bit of spitback in your mouth, so you'll taste your juice if nothing else. But it's just not quite there. So what you can do, because the drip tip's a tad bit shorter than the TFV4, you can actually just move your lips down over those airflow holes a little bit to kind of regulate that vape experience and the airflow on the fly. So say one hit you want to be full on airflow, you want to chuck a cloud. The next one you kind of want to sit back and relax when you just put the drip tip a little bit further in your lips. So here's what I'm talking about. Here it's fully open. Here's the cloud chaser vape. I'm at my lips right on the end of the drip tip. That is a lot of vapor. Let me get it going this way so you can really see this. A lot of airflow, a lot of vapor. Flavor really good, but it's mostly from the spitback that I'm getting in my mouth because you hit it so much harder with all the airflow open. Now I'm gonna put my lips kind of halfway down onto the airflow control at the drip tip, and you'll notice it a little bit different. Slightly warmer. I'm still getting a little bit of airflow at the top, but not full on like I was in the cloud chaser airflow hit. And now what you can do if you want to really close off the top without taking it off and kind of spinning this wheel, just put your lips all the way over it. And there's your tight hit. So at first I wasn't a big fan of the airflow style, the airflow design of the Panda V12, but eventually I got really accustomed to being able to sort of adjust how much airflow I'm getting out of the tank on the fly just by placement of the drip tip in your mouth, which is kind of a new experience for me, and I really dig it. Now the other design feature that you've definitely seen before is the fill style is a lot like the crown. You're just twisting off the top and there's 4 holes there to fill your juice into the tank. One difference with the Panda V12 is it has this ability when you spin it clockwise to close off the juice going into the atomizer. So when you do fill this, you're gonna unscrew the top, make sure you can see red circles in the atomizer windows. That means it's closed off. Then you fill it up, go ahead and screw back on the top, and then pop them open. I swear, with this fill design style, I haven't had leaking out of this once. The one time I filled it up and I didn't, close off those windows to the atomizer, it leaked. And sure enough, every time since then, I've made sure I've closed off that atomizer's juice windows and not a single drop has come out of these airflow. And last but certainly not least, the build quality on this tank is top notch. I can't really say that about the box ETC from Modvapa, but the tanks that Modvapa produces are just phenomenal. All of the threads are buttery smooth. It just works exactly like it's supposed to, and I love it. Well, that's my review of the box ETC and the Panda V12 from Modvapa. If you guys need to see a walkthrough on how to set up and use the box ETC and the Panda V12, just go ahead and click on this link. Otherwise, this has been Kyle from Vapor Hut. Driven by you, fueled by Vapor. Have a great day, guys. #1 shotgun sound system in the world. Major laser sound. So I finally got my hair cut. It was just getting so long, it was unbearable. I mean, every time I'd tilt my head over, my hair would be down in my eyes, in my face, touching my nose. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. So we're back to the short hair Kyle, which is cool. I think I might keep this look. I don't know. We'll see. Hair grows.